Good evening. You're watching The Big Picture with me, Ishan Russell. Tonight, we focus on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit to the United Kingdom. And it's been quite an action-packed visit with deals worth $9 billion being inked and England really rolling out the red carpet for Prime Minister Modi. From a lunch with the Queen to staying at the British Prime Minister David Cameron's retreat to addressing 60,000 people at Wembley, Prime Minister Modi is engaging Britain like never before. So there's lots to talk about and to understand, and what are the key takeaways that we'll be talking about. And joining me to understand those in the studio, we have Sheetal Sharma. She is an assistant professor at the Jawaharlal Nehru University. Pinak Ranjan Chakravarty, former secretary MEA and distinguished fellow at ORF, is here with us in the studio. Also, Dr. Raghubansh, Sinha, deputy news editor at the Hindustan Times, is with us in the studio. And on the phone line from London, we have Lord Meghnad Desai. And Lord Desai, I'll come across straight to you because London is where all the action is. And it really seems that this kind of an engagement, I mean, India and the UK for the past 9 years, I mean, the British Prime Minister might have come thrice to India, but an Indian Prime Minister hadn't gone. So this is a marked shift in ties, isn't it?
Yeah, UK has decided that in order to sustain its economic growth, it needs to diversify its trade away from EU and more towards emerging economies, especially China and India. They see China and India as opportunities for them, for UK, to benefit.
So that is certainly is an opportunity. We've lost the line with Lord Meghnad Desai. We'll try to re-establish that. But Pinak Ranjan Chakravarty, that is the crux of the matter, isn't it? That the UK wants India really, really bad. How badly does it want India?
You see, UK's trade figures, if you look at, I think there is some cause for concern for them, that is. And hence then they need to diversify markets, and India and China being the largest, economies in Asia and Japan. And one must also note that India is the expanding economy for the next decades. China has slowed down. So where do you sell? I mean, you need consumers, so India as a market is certainly attractive as an investment destination as well. But also India is a major investor in UK.
Right.
And in fact, India invests more, as David Cameron said in his speech, more in UK than the whole of EU, the rest of the EU. So I think economy is number one as far as this visit is concerned. The other is about culture, history, connectivities, the community that is flourishing, the Indian origin community is flourishing, technology, defense, students, education. These are the other areas of our engagement with the UK, which has always been there. But the question is, how do you raise it to higher levels?
And this certainly is raising the bar as far as that engagement.
Absolutely, and a prime ministerial visit is the right occasion to raise the bar.
All right, Sheetal Sharma, as far as the Prime Minister's visit this time around goes, it's quite interesting to know that we're being viewed as never before. I mean, given our history with the British, this certainly is a change in life, seems to have come full circle. But what does India want from the UK?
Ishan, if we look at from a different perspective, then look at the composition of EU, in which Germany, France and UK tend to be one of the big member states.
Right.
But given the kind of context in which Britain wants to exit European Union, there will be either it happens or does not happen. That is a different story. In 2017, there is a referendum going to be held regarding that. But Britain, certainly independent of EU, will certainly vie for a kind of, independent economic identity, social, political, whatever kind of. It's a small state. Gone are the days colonial era, when they ruled almost half of the planet. Now, given that kind of set of circumstances, if it exits at all, then it certainly needs good business partners, where they invite people to invest in them. At the same time, as Ambassador Saab said, they want markets for their products.
Right.
And given the set of circumstances that now, among the BRIC countries, all the other three, they are somehow showing indications of a slowdown.
Yeah.
And among them, India, because of its domestic market, has been able to float itself better as compared to China, Russia or Brazil. And plus, apart from that ability to maintain itself, India has a capacity of human resource, which has been time and again identified so clearly by Prime Minister also, that we have 65% of population which is under 35. So we have a large pool of skilled people available with us, not just skilled, even professionals. And many of the high professional industries and service sectors in UK employs people from India. So that is what is a kind of pull factor for Indians there. And at the same time, the market is going to be opened up for these people also. So these are the two things, it's not one-way relationship. Yes, we may say that England needs a slightly, in a greater capacity as compared to India, but we also get to benefit out of these.
Absolutely. One of the sectors, Raghubansh, where India and the UK both are looking to really benefit from each other is the manufacturing sector, which both have lagged in. Make in India is the Prime Minister's pet project. And on the other hand, the UK has also been pushing for manufacturing excellence, so saying that we have the technology, but to say a made in Indian product is as good as a made in Germany product is something that the UK wants to get into, and that is where synergy is being found, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Prime Minister Modi's whole principle philosophy of Make in India, that is going to be a major incentive for Britain and to exploit the Indian market, because India is a land of opportunity across all sector, whether it is in the insurance sector, health sector, education sector, and even in when it comes to armaments. So obviously that is the area that they are looking at, that to tap this great opportunity that India provides. Because what is very important is now at last, Britain has realized that the most important part of the relationship is economics in nature. Right. And so they are really pushing hard. And I am reminded of the importance of economy that Britain is providing, pushing today, that they went all out to roll out the red carpet for Xi Jinping, even antagonizing the Americans. So you can understand where the emphasis of the new government led by Prime Minister Cameron was. That is the economic, and India provides a great marketplace.
Absolutely, and it's a changed UK, isn't it, Pinak, Ranjan, Chakravarty? You've served over there in London, and the kind of atmosphere, the eyes that with which India was seen has certainly undergone a huge transformation, that perhaps reflective in our newfound status over there.
When I served there way back in the late 80s, when Rajiv Gandhi came as Prime Minister for the first time, and Mrs. Maggie Thatcher used to be the Prime Minister, I think she also played a role and, rolled out the red carpet for him. That was one thing that I saw with my own eyes. And today, when I see Prime Minister Modi's visit, a very similar structure, protocol-wise, the visit has been arranged in terms of the Guard of Honor and things like that. But those are obviously gestures that are being made to an Indian Prime Minister in a totally different India that is today. And clearly the economy is going to be the primary mover of this relationship. But there are other very important issues.
All right.
I would talk about, I can mention counter-terrorism, for example.
Absolutely, we'll come to that, but I want to first talk about the economy and then be done with it. And as far as the economy is concerned, we mentioned about the European Union, and yesterday in that press conference that both the Prime Ministers had, an interesting point was made over there that Prime Minister Modi said, as far as India's relationship with the European Union is concerned, in that England would be the entry point. How do you see that, Pinak, Ranjan, Chakravarty?
Well, I think he made it he made that statement basing it, in my view, on a certain historical sort of relationship that we've had the longest relationship with the UK as a former colonial power. But the fact is, it has also been pointed out that we trade more with Germany than with UK. We trade more with, I think, even Belgium than with UK. So UK has been falling behind in terms of trading with India. Now, what are the reasons? I think UK, as a manufacturing power, has lost the ability to produce goods which is competitive. So I think the Indian market not only allows, India not only allows a competitive manufacturing base, because we have the skilled capacities and the labor here, and they can bring in technology and investment, and you can market all over the world.
Absolutely. That is what both the Prime Ministers also spoke about yesterday. We have with us Lord Meghnad Desai on the phone line from London. Lord Desai, as far as the Indian Prime Minister's visit over there to the UK is concerned, I was reading in one of the articles put out on the BBC website, and it was quite interesting because they said there is a certain section in the UK that says, well, fine, all's good as far as the talk is concerned, but when will you walk the talk? And that is what a constant criticism has been about the pace of reforms. Do you see that as an actual concern, or do you see that as something as perhaps only the critics are talking about for now?
No, this thing is about, what we call ease of doing business in India, or, sort of retrospective taxation and all those matters. What really is at issue is that if people come to invest, they should have a predictable business environment, and the government should not change its mind halfway. It's not just for foreign business. I always say that's for Indian business as well. Indian business also doesn't like harassment by the tax authorities. And I think the foreign business is the same way. And I think Vodafone is very interesting in the sense that after all it has suffered, they're still willing to commit to India large sums of money. So they clearly are there for a long time. And let's hope that more and more businesses from outside come to India, and because Indian businesses should go outside. It's a mutual thing. We don't just importers of capital, we are exporters of capital as well. And that is how the mutual benefit occurs.
All right, Lord Desai, as far as that mutual partnership is concerned, yesterday an interesting point was made over there about the House of Tata being one of the largest private sector employers in the UK. And as far as those things are concerned, at one point in time there was a lot of fear that was there in British politics about jobs being outsourced to India, about Indian companies coming in and taking over. But it seems that even for British Prime Minister David Cameron, he's also creating a local constituency among the diaspora over there.
Absolutely. The thing is, the concern about jobs being outsourced to India is less so now because a lot of the jobs have come back. Indian wages have been going up, so jobs have come back. What's important is that India is seen not just as a buyer of British products or a buyer of British investment. India is also seen as someone which can come to UK and produce goods. And I think the Tata example is a very interesting one. You see, the British don't mind who owns their industry, whether it be Japanese or Chinese or Indian. They want productivity up. And so Indian, especially the Tata management of Jaguar and Land Rovers has been a fantastic success. And so that is basically what we're looking for. And the diaspora is happy that capital from India is coming, or business from India is coming, because they can also do business with India. All right, so there's a mutual benefit arrangement.
Absolutely, but indeed, it seems to be a win-win situation. And as far as the energy security is concerned, yesterday Prime Minister Modi was saying that as far as technology is concerned, energy is something that the UK is, the technology related to that, the UK can easily share with India. For example, hydrogen fuel cell technology and others. In that sense, do you see that becoming the fulcrum of the relationship? Because India really is seeking to expand and become power surplus, in fact, not just sufficient.
I don't know when it will generate surplus power because so far we have been lagging behind, even achieving the target.
That is that Vision 2020.
Vision 2020, but it might take a couple of years to realize 2020 as well. But certainly among all the visits which have been undertaken so far by the current Prime Minister, energy somewhere has been at the core of all these things. And not just fossil fuel and coal, but renewable energy sources, in which, if in case we have the technology transfer here, most of the issues related to climate, most of the issues related to pollution, and all these things will certainly be taken care of to certain extent. And the discussions which will be held now at this forum related to technology, green technology and transfer of this technology to India, they may be taken up next month when COP21 happens. And India will have a strong standing by saying, that if in case you want us, the whole issue of differentiated responsibilities and all, then India can really make a strong position that if in case we are, abiding ourselves to cut down the emissions, we need all these things, and in that case, these kind of negotiations will certainly help us in a positive fashion.
All right, interesting point you make over there. And as far as India and UK go, Raghubansh, energy security, and leading up from that, renewable energy. Now, we've seen, in fact, in the conversation yesterday, with what Prime Minister Modi was saying, he was talking about solar power, about the geographical location of India, that we have so much of sunlight, and solar power could really be used if we have the proper technology, if the UK shares that with us. So that seems to be an emphasis. But as far as differentiated responsibility, as Sheetal was pointing out, that has been a cause for concern between India and the UK. We've not seen eye to eye on that. So how do you see that issue moving forward, climate change and energy security?
Well, there is certain amount of difference over these issues between India and the UK, but the emphasis of this whole visit about solar energy and trying to help India combat pollution and overcome these kind of problems, I think that is hitting the right button, because it is only showing that you are looking at the real issue. The symbolism that used to be present earlier. Now, if you look at the agreements that are being signed this time, there are no very big ticket issue, but they are small across the spectrum, whether it is solar energy, whether it is the nuclear deal they have signed, health sector. You must remember the national health scheme in Britain is being run by Indians.
Okay.
And those national health scheme, Britain is trying to also, cooperate with India. So I think what is most important is that the emphasis on real issue, whether it is solar or looking at the climate change issue, because after all, they'll have to take India on board. And Britain being an old ally, old friend, I think it is necessary that both the countries should look into it.
All right, Lord Meghnad, Desai, you would be wanting to say something. Sorry for that. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry. Were you asking me a question?
Yes, I was saying,
I can hear you.
We've been talking about the issue of climate change, and now India and the UK have a little bit of difference of opinion, but heading into Paris next month, this could be one of the points where India could really emerge as a leader. And given the fact that Prime Minister Modi has been talking about use of solar energy and generating energy through other renewable means, is something that the UK, as far as technology is concerned, can really partner with India in.
Yeah, I think it's too much to imagine that India would be a leader. I wait just 1 minute.
Can you hear us?
I think it would be too much to imagine that India would be a leader. Because I think what you really would get is that India would be one of the players, but not a major player.
So you're saying that India might not be that big a player, but at least the rhetoric around that certainly seems to be what India wants to be there. Prime Minister Modi wants to be there. But I want to move on because we're running out of time, and there's another interesting aspect that's come across Lord Desai, and that is the questions also that we saw yesterday being addressed to both the premiers. One was about certainly the economy and how the engagement moves forward from here, but the other was about Prime Minister Modi himself and his past. He was questioned by the British media as well. So what do you make of the British public's reaction towards Prime Minister Modi?
I think in an articulate press there has been a reaction, but in the public there hasn't been of a reaction. It's quite mild. Most of the protest has been by some of the diaspora community. And, people have asked questions about India, quite rightly. Let them ask questions. There is a debate, there are differences in India. India is a democracy. Come on. I've seen no Prime Minister, President from anywhere in the world come to London and not face protests.
All right.
President Xi was here, President Sisi was here. Every time somebody comes, there's a protest. But that's part of being being a democracy, and protests happen. So we have to take it quite in a relaxed way.
All right, Raghubansh, but you pointing out a little earlier when we were having this conversation before this show about the British media's coverage of this particular visit. We might be talking about economic cooperation, but they're talking about something a little different.
No, I think the media is broadly talking about economics, but they are also reflecting these protests. And as Meghnad Desai himself said, these are mainly run by the Indian diaspora. And the British public have very little to do. Most of these are run by, as we saw, Kashmiris, the Nepalese, and some people from Punjab. And being a democratic setup, we should not be scared of that. But at the same time, the media should not go overboard. They must be able to differentiate, small protests, which are normal in Britain, from giving it the kind of big headlines that the media is giving. That would be like, taking the focus away from the main issue. And media must try to reflect, and perhaps, the media in Britain continues to be a little bit, I would say, patronizing. Mr. Modi as Prime Minister may have his faults. He might have lost an election. But the way the British media is going on and on analyzing those things, that is meant for the Indian media. That should not be the role of the British paper to reflect on to why the electorate voted him out, what is his past. This is going too much overboard, I would say.
All right, you're saying the media might be going overboard. Would you agree with that, Ranjan Chakravarty?
Well, the media has every right to say what it wants. But my sort of understanding is that it's not going to change the narrative or the story of India-UK relationship. And I think the British media tends to carp and whine a lot on certain issues, because Britain has been generally a host to all kinds of disparate elements. The Kashmiris, one of our diplomats was actually killed. But when they crossed the red line and entered into terrorist and other conspiracies, and that is when India will be deeply worried and concerned, and will obviously point it out to the UK government that this is not on. I mean, while hosting a dissenting community is different from actually allowing them to proceed to commit terrorist acts or conspire against India in any way. So that is where the counter-terrorism and other actions have to be taken. While Britain has generally allowed these people to stay and coexist, etc., but no Indian government has ever taken very kindly to these kind of actions. And I know, because during that time the Khalistanis were up to no good, but they were all allowed a free run, and there were some violent incidents also within UK. So it's not good for us, and it's not good for UK either, that we should allow these elements to go out of hand.
I think the strategic partnership between the two countries is moving forward.
And finally, I would say that what the British media says really doesn't matter, as you know.
Right, but that is often what is said, that the messenger doesn't matter, but often it does. I would disagree with you a little bit over there. But final question, because we just have about a couple of minutes, and Meghnad, I'll start off with you. If you want something to really move forward, a pick up in the relationship between India and the UK, what would that one thing be?
Are you asking me?
Yes.
India should relax. People should not worry. Britain is an open country, is a democratic country, and they criticize not only India, but everybody. India should grow up, enjoy its status, and treat itself like equal to UK. UK will treat India like equal. UK press criticizes everybody, not just India, America, everybody else. So let Indians grow up, be mature, and face the criticism quietly. India is a very important country now. And it's time India took its place with pride and maturity. Indeed. And not whining and complaining all the time.
All right. Dr. Sinha, as far as your takeaway, one big takeaway that you would want out of this visit?
I think it is a historic visit, and not only it comes after 1 decade, but I think both the Prime Ministers are putting the emphasis on the right spot, that is economic. But at the same time, we need to get over some of the past problems. We have... what is good is that, like in the United States, today goodwill towards India is bipartisan across, whether it is the Labour government or whether it is the Conservative government. So that's a good point about it.
Sheetal?
I agree with Lord Desai, that India should relax, because it's an emerging economy. In fact, quite a lot, it has travelled on the path of development and almost reaching the pinnacle of developing society or country, and Indians should not worry much about what is being portrayed as. the Western countries, particularly UK, France, these countries have given values, the modern values to the humanity. And whenever they are testing somebody, they will certainly test you on the basis of the yardstick that they have created. And being critical is one of the fundamental values of a democratic society. So what media does is a kind of scrutiny, and it will keep on doing. But the strategic matters will continue to be on the other side, and they will keep on moving at their own pace. You cannot push them or you cannot stop them. And that's the part of politics and diplomacy that is happening. Yes, one big takeaway is that people may criticize many of these trips which have been taken up by Prime Minister, but they were essential, or in the sense they were necessary, because somehow there is a revamping, restirring of image which is happening. And diaspora is playing an important role in that.
Indeed, the Wembley Stadium event would be one of the biggest political events in British history itself. Pinak, Ranjan, Chakravarty, last word to you. It's often said that diplomacy is often between the mandarins and the diplomats, not at the top. And now Prime Minister Modi really pushing for it right from the top. David Cameron's come to India 3 times. One thing that he would look forward to for both of them to move forward, take this relationship forward.
I think I come back again to the fact that whatever is being said in the media or otherwise, or the protesters, I de-link it from the narrative of the bilateral relationship, because that is going to move on, and that is going to be basically based on the economy, and it will also be based on certain linkages in technology and in the modern energy domain, as we talked about. And I think the business-to-business relationship is going to grow, because both sides need each other, and India, with all its Make in India policies, etc., will welcome. And I also, admit that unless the business environment is suitable, foreign direct investment and others for the manufacturing sector in India, naturally will be more difficult. Ease of doing business, for example. I think the government is fully aware of all these things, and slowly reforms are happening. But we can always crib about it's not happening fast enough. We can always talk about the pace of reforms. But the fact is that it's happening. And it will happen, and maybe in India everything takes a bit of time.
Because we are
an argumentative people. We are an argumentative people, so we will argue and say what is good, what is bad. But finally, we will get there.
All right, so slowly and steadily, we seem to be getting there, but we'll have to wrap it up over here. Thank you so much, all of you, for coming, and Lord Meghnad, Desai, all the way from London. Thank you for taking our time and talking to us, Dr. Sinha, Sheetal, Sharma, and Pinak, Ranjan, Chakravarty. Thank you very much for coming into our studio. So that was a presentation on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's historic visit to the United Kingdom, the first by an Indian Prime Minister in 9 years. The relationship has received a new impetus. We're seeing it move forward, which direction it takes, and how fast it can grow. Well, a lot depends on what happens over here in India as well, and we'll be keeping a watch on that as well. That's all from us. Goodbye.